And you made this point that I thought was so interesting, because one of the great weird things about the first part of this term for Trump is an absence of judicial nominees. And you sort of connected these dots about why you think that's the case and what it has to do with his beef with Leonard Leo.
It's a bit of a theory, and the theory needs to be proven out. I think reporters can do it. It's like theoretical physics, and then you have to test the proposition. But I think part of the reason why we're seeing so few judicial appointments thus far, as opposed to the flood that Leonard Leo and Don McGahn gave us 8 years ago, is that most of the people who are in the conservative legal establishment, who are qualified to become judges, whether or not you like them or not, they're not qualified to Trump because they haven't displayed their loyalty. And if they have that Federalist Society credential, I think Stephen Miller said today, we're not picking people from the Federalist Society anymore. So they don't really have a pipeline, and they really have a limited pool of people. Trump's own personal criminal lawyers, well, there are a lot of them because he committed a lot of crimes, but that's still not enough to fill the federal judiciary. And Eileen Cannon, well, she's only one person. So, he doesn't have a long list to pick from.
In your relentless writing of the most important things in the world, John, you have written yet another piece called Stop Waiting for America to Look Like What You Think Fascism Will Look Like. I mean, this is, argues to us not beating up on each other. I mean, look at what we're facing. You just said, they're looking for some shocking or violent moment to signal to them that now it's actually bad, that this is the time to panic. Short of these things, the perception of normalcy is sedating tens of millions of people into denial, complacency, and inaction. Our family members, friends, neighbors, and coworkers refuse to acknowledge or even believe how much we've lost in the last 100 days. The dismantling of 250-year-old systems of governance, the reversal of human and civil rights that took generations to secure, the erosion of safeguards and protections for people and the land, the suffocation of agency of citizens. I mean, I just think, I keep saying it, there's no hyperbole that is hyperbolic enough right now.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the myth of America that many of us were raised on is so deeply embedded in us, that exceptionalism is there, that we really find it difficult to reckon with the idea that we could be guilty of the sins of other nations in the past. And that denial is so thick and so powerful. And that, my neighborhood, I can walk in my neighborhood and America is deceptive in the way it looks right now, because you can go out there and nothing visibly seems to have changed and life seems normal. And it's trying to help people understand that is the last thing you're going to see. Tanks driving down the street. Once you see that, it's too far. And the only place that you can really push back against fascism is in the early stages, and before it has the power that it's going to have.
We talked to you at Durham Sexy Liberal about, one of the lies Trump won on is that he said Biden was denying FEMA aid for North Carolina. Well, now Trump has denied FEMA aid to Asheville. It was the latest to the whole area, right? I mean, do people still get that Biden?
Just going through that. I'm sorry, I was just driving through that area a couple of weeks ago, and it's still devastated. And the people there are just trying to figure out, how can we get ourselves back to a place of even basic, essential normalcy? And then to see Trump do that, and then to try to figure out what's the story in the heads of Republican voters in North Carolina. How are they reconciling that? And I said the only good thing is that they're now seeming there's no one else to blame.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just this is so important. You said the battle's being lost right now. It's happening in the purposeful crashing of the stock market. It's happening in mass deportations without due process. It's happening in ignored Supreme Court rulings. It's happening in mass layoffs at federal agencies. It's happening in the firing of journalists. It's happening in the severing of ties with our allies in the global community. And you said, friends, the rise of fascism here isn't going to look like a jittery, blurry, black and white newsreel, right? You said it won't, at least initially, come dressed in military parades. Well, I guess it will, June 14th.
Yeah,
but,
on the clock.
All right. But you said this is where we are. Everything does look perfectly normal. The sun's shining. Pickleball courts are packed. People are out at restaurant patios having lunch. So this is the problem. Is more complacency or thinking, oh, it's not really that bad, right?
Yeah, it's the question of, are we built to stop fascism? Are we as a culture, do we really have what it takes? Do we really have the attention spans and the intestinal fortitude and the organizational strength that it's going to take to do this? Because we'll get a small win today, like the tariffs, and we'll feel good and we'll begin to breathe a little bit easier. But the right is just doubling down, and they're just going back. And even, we're going to have a day of protest on June 14th. Trump is not intimidated by that, and the Republicans are not frightened by that, because it's an event. And what we need is actually a sustained movement, and that's much more difficult to put together.
My mom and dad are buried at Arlington, so your piece on Memorial Day, you had the same reaction. Donald Trump's presence and presidency are a middle finger to those who died serving this nation. You said, imagine telling those brave servicemen and women just before they gave their very lives for this nation that it would one day be placed in the hands of a treasonous felon with abject disregard for the laws of this land, a man lacking a single noble impulse or patriotic thought. Imagine breaking the news to those beautiful souls facing certain death that at 5 or 20 or 60 years later, America would be helmed by a billionaire insurrectionist who would ridicule their bravery, make a mockery of their sacrifice, praise them who followed them in harm's way by allowing a disgraced TV personality to oversee them. I can't. My dad's been gone 40 years, John. I can't even imagine explaining this to him, to what's happened.
And I think, Stephanie, the tragedy of it all is that the left has been painted as some sort of anti-patriotic group of people. And the truth is, we have been centering the people of the military and the people who have died for this country in a way that Trump and his party do not. And I think it's the other narrative that we have to assert both our love of this country and our spirituality, those of us who have it. I think the lie that we've allowed Republicans to perpetuate is that we are unpatriotic and we're ungodly. And so I think that's the other part of this. That myth is so strong in people on the right that they'll watch something happen like Memorial Day, and the patriotism and the national fervor takes over, and there's nothing underneath it. It's all a facade.
Yeah. I loved how you closed this, that his kleptocratic administration, populated by grifters and foreign assets, serves as a strident you to the millions who lost years and careers and futures and limbs trying to protect a republic that's now teetering on the edge of abyss. And you said whether it's Memorial Day, Veterans Day, Independence Day, any day we wake up with such a small, cowardly, petty disgrace of a man leading this nation, we should be livid at the insult he is to those who truly loved and love America. We should grieve our part in this mockery that's being made of their sacrifice. We should openly and loudly stand in opposition to him as a way of properly honoring them. Yeah, I don't think our founders ever could have envisioned an entire party with this much cowardice. Do you?
That's the story here, Stephanie. It's the slow erosion of individual human beings. Whether it's your Marco Rubio's or whether it's your Ted Cruz's. It's people who, in places of power and position, collapsed, and then because of that, the dominoes that have fallen, and that group of people, I try to explain to my son, who's 19, the Republican Party was a very different group of people. We may have differed greatly with some of their platform, but there were people in that party who did have substance and did want to work for compromise. And they have all been weeded out of the party. It's unrecognizable. So this isn't even conservatism, and it isn't even evangelicalism of the past. It's a completely new cultic movement that is based around one human being and the power that his voters have.
That says they're Christians and are fine with, poor kids dying around the world and food rotting that we've already paid for, and him deporting a 4-year-old girl with cancer that's going to die if she doesn't get treatment. I mean, that's who this party has become.
Yeah, and this started my whole journey. I was a pastor in a megachurch, and I started to look around before the 2016 campaign, and Greta Van Susteren is showing up at the organization at Billy Graham. My wife worked for Billy Graham, and you see Sarah Palin show up and all the Fox News team, and you realize something is pivoting here, and so now we've seen the full Project 2025 fruition of that.
Yeah, don't mistake Greta Van Susteren for Greta Thunberg.
That's right.
That would just end badly for everyone involved. That would just In America, personal religious beliefs should be just that, personal. But today, Christian nationalism is on the rise, threatening separation of church and state. Laws are being passed based on religious doctrine instead of reason, eroding our rights and freedoms in legislatures, public schools, even in courtrooms. One set of religious beliefs is being forced onto everyone else, but that's not what our founders intended. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back as the nation's leading group of free thinkers working to keep religion out of government. FFRF protects your right to think for yourself, whether you've always been secular, left religion behind, or simply believe in true religious freedom for everyone. If we don't stand up now, we may lose our religious freedoms. Join FFRF in defending our secular constitution and keeping faith a personal choice, not a government mandate. Visit ffrf.us/freedom to learn more, become a member, or text my last name Miller to 511-511, because in a truly free country, no one's faith should dictate everyone's future. Text Miller to 511-511 today.